So, how did we get here? Are there really such a thing as atheists? Today, we're going to take a look at a conversation that Dave Smith had with Tucker Carlson, and where he said there really are no atheists. You can't. It doesn't match with reality. That might be a strong claim, but I'm going to try to defend what, from my humble opinion, what I'm trying to convey when I say that. My name is Brandon Fogel. This is Evolution. Let's dive into it. This is what sets off anyone for their worldview and how they interpret the world and the reality that they are walking into each day. Everybody wakes up. We all came out of some sort of dream. I mean, the weirdest dreams imaginable. Like, even when you're off, when you're powered down, you're still going. It seems like you never stop. We never stop. Our minds never quit. They keep going. And so I've really struggled with thinking about how that things existed before I was born. Because if there's anything to it that, that this world, and this might go completely against what I'm going to even try to say. So let me start off with that. But like that this world existed before I was born. It really happened. I see, like, I'm reading about things and events taking place in 1980 or 1984. I was born in 1985, and I was like, I wasn't really existing at that point. How? So I can kind of get how you could think that even when we die off and we're gone away and everything, we have finally, been put to rest, that the world is going to continue to go without us. Because, I mean, that's the only way I can even think about it, because it was going before I got here. Real events were taking place before I landed in this world, before you landed in this world. The world was in motion. So that is something that kind of like can make me, because is that just in me that I want something, right? Because right now I can't imagine or fathom me not existing. So I need to create something outside of this world. I need to create, I think about just dictators throughout history and how they would control the masses. They would give them that pie in the sky, or people that just did slavery over people. Let them have a little bit of hope outside of this life that they can look to the next. So there is all of that. And that, like, I get that, because it is rational to think that people would put a thumb over people and try to control people by giving them hope that there's something outside of their existence and they can live for something greater than the here and now. Having said all that, because I mean, those are things that, like, I can understand why there might be atheists and why people might take a sideways look at people that really believe in this God that exists out there. But we're going to take a look at what Dave Smith, he was an atheist for a long time. I was indifferent. I was probably what you would say an atheist, but a lot of people really haven't thought it through. We just assume that there is a God a lot of times. We assume that he's there because it's the only thing that can explain why we have morals, why we think some things are right or wrong, why there was a world that is even out there. But Dave Smith, he says, and he's going to get into it in a little bit, is his I wouldn't say come to Jesus moment, because it looks like he's Jewish. But then again, the Jewish might have the tightest knit to Jesus there is. They're physically, naturally his brothers. They're the ones that the slight blindness has happened to them, that they can't see that their Messiah has come. They're going to be Joseph's brothers. Their eyes are going to be open, and man, like, you were the Messiah this whole time. I cannot believe it. But I don't know his situation on Jesus, but he did come to a God moment in his life. But before that, he talks about just conversations he's had with people, and he talks about Tucker and Brett's sit down together, and Brett's, like, elocution of how there is existence without God and explaining it away. And Dave does not buy into all that.
one of the fundamental flaws in atheism is that it doesn't really exist.
Yes.
Now, they think that's the flaw in believing in God.
No.
They think the flaw in believing in God is that God really doesn't exist. God does exist. What doesn't exist are atheists. There's no such thing.
So true.
And you could even get into maybe if there was such thing as atheists, it would be a good thing to be one. But there aren't. They don't exist. They all have their religion. And it's almost by definition that whatever your highest thing is becomes your religion. I don't know if it's quite by definition, and I suppose it is theoretically possible to be an atheist, but almost no one ever is. And so
that is actually very profound, because it's saying something that we inherently know inside. We know that there is a God, and he talks about times in his life he did not believe in God. He did not think he was there, but we still act and live as if he is. And just that sense that I think of C.S. Lewis, and he says, there's so many things in this world that just don't satisfy me. And maybe it's because I was made for another world. Maybe you were made for another world. Everything we chase at in this life, it always leaves us high and dry. It doesn't get us anywhere. We don't feel ultimately any more peace by attaining it. You can chase money all day long and want to win the lottery. I wouldn't mind winning the lottery, but it seems like the people that win the lottery, it doesn't end up turning out well for them. So maybe it's not the money, or people that want fame and they finally get it. They're like, I wish everybody got fame so they could see that this is not what it's all about. There's nothing that we would chase after in this life, or substance that we would just shoot into our body or drink up or smoke up that's ever going to give us what we deeply desire inside. The only thing that is going to do that is God. And Dave is going to talk about that in his come to God moment, when it was when things were going bad in his life. Or not really bad. It was the best moment in his life. He was about to have a child, but there were complications in the pregnancy. And he's like, I could walk out of this hospital alone. And you always hear there's no real atheist, especially in foxholes. You won't find an atheist in a foxhole, because you could be the most staunch atheist in the world, but when you're in a building and it's about to come down, you're going to be praying. You will be praying. Everybody will be. I mean, that's just who we are. We know he's really there. It's a lot of times us just giving a stiff arm to that reality that we know exists. But this is his moment when he talks about coming to God. I thought it was very deep. I had to take a look at this.
And there was one, again, I'm almost a little uncomfortable talking about these things because I like talking about things where I have a real tight argument that I can prove is irrefutable. This is a more
profound argument, actually.
But it was something where I was like, look, so in the moment when it was really all on the line and out of my control, I wasn't thinking maybe God exists. I knew for a 100% certainty, unlike nothing I've ever known in my life, that not only did I know that God existed, but I knew what he wanted from me. I knew what my negotiating power in this was, is that I could, you know what I'm saying? I could promise I'll be a good person. So not only did I know God existed, I knew that God wanted me to be a good person. And look, this is something that people who have found God know, and people who don't believe in God maybe will not accept. But there is something to when you open yourself up like that to God, you find out that he's real. And it's not like he speaks to you or he hallucinates. I don't see a fiery bush in the words of.
That is so real. And I know a lot of people out there, you might not believe in God. You might be agnostic to this whole thing. But I would say there's no real atheist, but agnosticism is a legitimate deal. You know there's a God. You know something is out there and sprung all this into existence, but you just can't. It's hard to say for sure and certainty that this is it. I am overly convinced just by everything. I can't in a scientific tube say Jesus is the Messiah. He is the Son of God. All the claims of the Bible about him are correct. I can't put that in a test tube and show you this is how it is, you know? But it's like, looking at all the evidence, I definitely side more that is more probable that he is the purpose that all of this has been put in place. It was created by him and it's created for him, you know? And that's what Dave's like, just humble assertion that whenever I opened myself up to God, I knew he existed. I knew he was there. And he'll say in another part that, just like if I walked away from our conversation, Tucker, I wouldn't say, yeah, I think Tucker Carlson exists. I think he's real. He would say, I know for a fact he is. And that's, I think a lot of times it's just for atheists or agnostics, wherever you're at, it's just when you start talking to him, when you actually start talking to him, because that was he says that in a little bit earlier in this conversation. I was in the hospital and I just started talking to him for the first time. I can remember the very first time I actually started talking to God. And when you actually start talking to God, you will be put in such awe and reverence. And you will, for me, I immediately broke down. I did not know that I had done anything wrong to this God, you know? But for some reason, naturally, I just wanted to repent. I was sorry for everything immediately. And I didn't even, 10 seconds earlier, didn't even know there was anything to be sorry for, really. You know? I was just an evolutionary cosmic accident wandering through this world 10 seconds prior. But this was very enlightening, and I think it goes to anybody's come to God moment, you know? And I would like to see more about Dave and find out more about his views. He doesn't talk about this all the time, so I thought it was very insightful and enlightening to hear from him. So if you've liked this video, please smash that like button, share it with everyone, subscribe to this channel. My name is Brandon Fogel. This is Evolution. I do this every day at 7 a.m. Central Time. All right, have a great day, everyone.
I could see the cracks form in the paint, growing like a fire. What do I say?